Hello everyone, and welcome back to part 2 of our Fuzzy Hug coloring videos. In the last episode we did a Thanksgiving table setup, which I will put right here so you guys can see. And if you didn't watch that episode, please go back and watch it. I think you'll really enjoy it. In this episode we are doing a movie night setup. It's a little bit darker, but I think that the little details I put in you'll really enjoy. In the top corner I'll be putting what markers I'm using, that way you guys can follow along, and I really hope you enjoy. Here we go. We're going to add our protective barrier like we always do, and then going in with a very dark gray for the background color, we are going to fill in this wall. Now, because the room is very dark, but the TV lets off a little bit of light, I'm going to go in with a really dark pink and work my way to a lighter pink the closer to the TV we get. As you can see from the last coloring video we did, we had a little bit of bleed through, but that's okay. In the end, you won't be able to see any of the smudges. This is definitely a trust the process kind of video. Some things might not make sense, some details might not be included until later in the video, so make sure you stay tuned. Blending this wall properly was very difficult. I end up going in a few times with the red and the dark gray to really make sure it blends. Adding some shadows with the pink colors, just to give it a little bit more pop. Starting with our bunny, we're going to go like we did in the first episode, very white and light gray, but due to the lighting differences, it's going to look very dark in order to give off the shadow effect. I'm not going very detailed to start. A lot of the furry texture will come in later in the video. I also will be bringing back the purple cookware from the first episode. Now on to our puppy. We are going to mimic the Bernese Mountain Dog. I think it's very cute, and I like to keep our characters together. Finding the right color tones for him was definitely a little difficult. You're going to notice I am going a little bit darker where the white is supposed to be in order to give off that shadow effect. Using a brown King's Art colored pencil, I'm going to go back through to really give off that blended effect, the brown into the gray. In my mind, he's eating a bowl of chips. I did go a little bit darker to give it a more baked effect and again to complement the shadows. Again, we're going to be bringing in our purple cookware bowl from the first episode. Now, I wanted our kitty to be a whiter light gray kind of color, but with our shadows, she's going to come off more dark, very black, which is okay. Towards the end of the video, I do go back through and add a little bit of like lighter gray fur strokes to really make it look like her fur is shining from the TV light. I love that she's holding a striped popcorn box, so I definitely went with the traditional colors with the red stripes. I think it's very nostalgic and very cute. And of course, you know we have to add in her pink bow. As we add in our wood floor, I think you'll start to see how we shaded everything to add in that light streak from the TV. Going from darker browns to a lighter in the middle, back down to a darker brown. I know this is a bigger section to color. I didn't clip it because I really wanted you to see how I blended the browns into each other. Adding some shadows underneath the table and our cute little characters to give it some depth. I'm going to go back through with a black micron pen and add in our wood texture. This can be a little bit complicated, but it's my favorite wooden floor to do, so I've gotten really quick at it. Wood floors aren't perfect, wood grain isn't even perfect, so these lines don't have to be straight, and I think that really helps with speeding up the process. As you can see, I added wood grain into every little inch of that floor, and I think it turned out really well and authentic and even a little bit realistic. It really brings a lot of life. Going back through, I'm going to use a black colored pencil to fix some of the shading a little bit so it's less blunt. Now this candy on the floor is very blocky, nothing's really very specific, so I wanted to make it more realistic. For this tiny one, I went with a classic Snickers bar. For this box, I went with Milk Duds. For the candy bar, I went with a Kit Kat. And for the rolls, I went with Smarties. To cover up all of these black lines, I am using Sharpie's Acrylic Markers. It really helps to kind of hide things that you don't want to be seen. Going back through with Jelly Roll's gel pens, I do add a little bit more specific details to really make it more realistic. In the corner, you'll see a close-up picture of our Milk Duds box. Again, I'm using Sharpie Acrylic Markers to go ahead and hide some of those harsh black lines. And then I'm going to use a Jelly Roll white gel pen to make it look like that clear plastic that Smarties has. While I wait for that first layer to dry, I'm going to go ahead with a very dark gray and color in the back of our TV. Personally, I prefer wooden furniture, so I definitely go towards that route. And with this little end table, you're going to see some more of that shading that I did. It's very purposeful in order to make it look lighter where the TV shines and darker where it doesn't. I think the brown tones that I chose blend really well together and are just enough different from the floor where it doesn't blend in too much. Going back through and adding some shading just to give it a little bit more love. Now that our package is dry, we're going to finish our Smarties. Going into our couch, I'm going to use a lot of cream colors, going from lighter to darker. The amount of work this page took me is actually crazy. When you go in, this page looks very simple, and then you get into it and it takes you so much longer than you think it does. This video is only 27 minutes long. This page took me about 3 hours. Going back through, I'm going to add in a lot of texture to our couch. I wanted it to feel fluffy and kind of worn in to give it that cozy effect. These are just baseline stripes. I'm going to go through and get real raggedy with it to give it that worn in look. As you can see, I'm just making very crude scratch marks, not being very specific, and I think that's how you get a more authentic texture. The amount of layers I put into this couch is actually insane, just to give it so much dimension. Tying in our cookware, I wanted to go with a purple pillow, just so things looked a little bit more uniform. Going through with our colorless blender, I'm going to be adding in a lot of detail to our pillow, to the couch, and back into our bunny just to make her look nice and fluffy. I'm also going to be going into our kitty cat and making those stripes just a little bit more watery. That way they look a little bit more noticeable going forward. I love a gold frame moment, so I definitely went with that for our frames here on the wall. I know they're not very shiny gold, but again, with our lighting situation, I didn't want to make them too bright. I end up adding another layer to make it a little bit darker because it's still a little too bright for me. The frame designs that they had on this page were a little too simple for me, so I'm going to go in and erase the design with a white acrylic marker and go in and make my own realistic paintings. Using Jelly Roll's gel pens, it was very easy to go in and make things nice and tiny and detailed that I can't do with the markers. I also just realized that I forgot that little wall space up under the lamp, but I'm going to do the background with a nice dark gray color because it is in that shadowed area. A Monstera leaf is one of my favorites, so that's what I decided to do for this painting. I am adding in a close-up image in the corner so that way you can see all the details. I decided to do a nice dark blue for the background of this leaf. I'm not really good with flower names. I kind of just made this up, and I went with like a purple color to kind of tie in our dishware and our pillow. To tie in the green Monstera leaf, I did go with a dark green background. As you can see, I'm still going with the general theme of the painting. I'm just making it a little bit more complicated. For this one, I went with a nice water stream with some trees and a sunset background. And I don't forget to add in the tree reflection to the water. Going back through with a brown gel pen, I'm going to add a little bit more detail to our frames. For our plant, I'm going to go purple for the pot, just to bring in some purple from our dishware and our pillow. And then obviously this is a snake plant, so I went very traditional with how I colored this. Normally I would add a little bit of yellow, but because it's in the darker shaded area, I went very muted. I even go back through with my lighter green to make that brightness just a little bit less. For our lamp up here, I went with gold fixtures, and my inspiration was those light pink and white flower lights. Obviously, I went darker for it. Keeping our post-it notes nice and simple, I just go in with a light gray and color them in just normally. Now on to our finer details. This is where the magic happens. Using a white gel pen, I'm going to go through the lighter areas and make our bunny look nice and fluffy. For the darker areas, I do a lot of layering with lighter grays to give it the same fluffy effect, but so it's not so bright. This took a lot of time, but I definitely think that it's totally worth it. The layering is a little annoying, but definitely adds dimension, and I think that helps a lot. Of course, we can't forget our steaming cup of hot chocolate. For this corner edge, I am going a little bit of lighter gray for the fluffy shadows. I end up going back through with something a little bit darker over top, just to blend in a little bit better. The cat being in the darkest was definitely a little bit tricky, but once I go back through and add a lot of different scratch marks, making it look a little bit fluffier, it helps a lot. I am also adding extra whiskers to our kitty because I think it looks a little bit more realistic that way. For our puppy, we're going to use the same technique, starting with a black micron pen. You can see our kitty now with all of those dried gel pen marks. She looks nice and fluffy. I think the super dark lines for our couch are a little bit much, so I do go back and kind of hide them with Sharpie's brown acrylic marker. And then I'm going to go through with a darker gel pen brown to make it look a little bit more defined. I end up going through the whole couch with a brown gel pen to make it look even more worn in and detailed. For our pillow, I'm going to do the same scratchy, fluffy marks and adding a little bit of tassel to the corners because I thought it would be very cute. Going back through and adding the highlights where the TV is shining adds a little bit more definition. Now for our TV shine effect, I'm just going to take a white gel pen and make a bunch of line marks and then smear them with my finger to give it that glowy feel. Adding this somewhat messy detail really adds to the effect that it's darker in one area and lighter in the other. And finally, to cover up some of my messy marks, I'm going to go back through and add a little bit of shading to the back of our TV. And that's it. We are all done. This is our finale for the page. I think it turned out really, really well, and I cannot wait to do another one. Please stay tuned for the next episode. I think you guys will really, really enjoy it. Thank you so much. I had so much fun doing this page.